Well, I think the Chinese auto market is going to continue to grow. The fact that for the last 3 months growth was not there doesn't mean that that's going to continue. We have obviously a consolidation taking place, but I'm expecting growth to move from a double-digit growth, which was the case for the past many years, to a growth which would be around 5 to 6% a year, which is still a very important number, because 5-6% out of 20 million cars sold in China every year, it makes more than 1 million additional cars a year.
As the Chinese economy has been readjusting, rebalancing, there have been some concerns about its growth. Are you worried about that?
No, I'm not concerned. I think the concern is coming from the fact that I don't think people really understand why it's slowing down. But if whenever there is a clear understanding about the reasons for which it's slowing down, still keeping a very healthy 6 to 7% growth, I think people will be reassured.
The Chinese stock market has been very volatile. Do you see that impacting car sales in China?
Oh yeah, it will impact auto sales. But this volatility came after a tremendous run on the stock market. I think the stock market gained 100% in a very short period of time. So you can expect that at a certain point in time, there's going to be some kind of correction or consolidation. Period where the stock market run up is good for car sales. When there is a correction, it's not good for car sales. So we, in a certain way, follow consumer confidence index, and consumer confidence is re-enhanced with a bull market, and it's a little bit put in difficulty and challenge when you are in a bear market. We're not there in China. I think we're talking more about short-term correction. Nothing, in my opinion, more preoccupying than that.
In August, there was a big explosion in Tianjin port. It's a big hub for car imports, car parts, car manufacturing. Nissan and Renault both have operations there. How have they been impacted, and where do things stand now and going forward?
Well, as you know, the impact in terms of financial damage is very limited, because you have insurances which are covering these damages. Now, if your supply chain is using this port as a very important hub, obviously your sales have been impacted, because we were not able to replace the car immediately. This has been the case for Renault, for example, which has been relatively more impacted than Nissan. On the contrary, if this is the kind of appendix to your supply chain, which is using many different other ports in China, you didn't see so much impact. So I'm not expecting car makers would be significantly impacted by what happened in the port.
We've seen a drastic decline in global oil prices, particularly over the last 6 months. Does that impact your strategy with regards to fuel efficiency, with regards to what kind of vehicles you want to put out in the market? Does that have any influence on Nissan and Renault's strategy?
In our case, not at all. I'm going to tell you for 2 reasons. First, price of oil is unpredictable. Today is low. Tomorrow, nobody knows. 3 years ago, we were seeing a $100 the barrel. Today it's at $40 the barrel. Who knows where the barrel of oil will be? You can't assume that the price of oil will continue to be low. That's number one. Number two is, what's driving the zero-emission cars today is not so much the price of energy than the level of emissions. There is one certainty into this whole environment, is that emissions are becoming stricter and will become stricter into the future. So we need to continue to develop all the technologies that allow you to have more fuel-efficient cars and very low-emission cars, or zero-emission cars.
Well, we're seeing some outside disruptors. Apple and Google have been venturing into the car market with self-driving, driverless cars. What is your take on that? Do you see traditional car makers going that route?
Well, we have announced steps to bring more autonomous driving cars already in 2016, 2018, 2020. And I think all the other car makers have announced it. So I think, yes, the industry is moving into this direction.
When you say autonomous, you mean assisted features?
Exactly. No. Autonomous is the driver is in the car. The driver is in the car, but he decides if he wants to drive or if he doesn't want to drive. And it's all, in concordance with the law, because today you have very strict regulation about what you can do when you are sitting in the car. So we're moving into this direction. Now, driverless cars are different stories, because these are cars without a driver. We are much more interested into autonomous drive, which means the driver is in the car and is empowered, much more empowered. He can decide whatever he wants to do. then into the technology with cars without a driver, which is a more commercial kind of technology. But something which is certain is if the car industry doesn't move into this direction, other will. So the car industry is taking it very seriously, and you can expect to see from the car industry cars which are much more connected, with much more autonomous drive and much lower emissions.